So today in this video, we're going to be discussing Dragon's Dogma 2 and everything Capcom can do to make it one of the best RPGs we've seen in 2023. Now, I know 2023 has been a little lackluster as far as RPGs. Dragon's Dogma 2 is probably something that's been in the making now for the past 10 years since the original one that came out on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. So, with that being said, with Capcom really being on a high streak right now, could Dragon's Dogma 2 actually be one of the best RPGs we get this year? Now, this article is going to be diving into it. It's from GameFreaks365.com, and let's just get right into it. It starts off by saying the first Dragon's Dogma game was flawed but an extremely innovative RPG. Here's how Dragon's Dogma 2 can become one of the best RPGs of 2023. And also, before we get started, I do want to say, especially the article says it as well, that Dragon's Dogma 2 is not guaranteed for 2023. However, it has been speculated that this could be the year we could be seeing it. The main flaws of Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is that the story, the bland game world, and the lack of content. The plot of Dragon's Dogma is actually good. It takes a philosophical subject at the lore of the game is also pretty complex and fascinating, but the way the story is told is obnoxiously bad. The game throws cutscenes at you in order, and at the end of the game, it tries to make sense of it in a little avail. What the game desperately needed was more insight into the game's lore, the story, with more quests and details. Games like Elden Ring execute the concept of a story that's told in parts perfectly. Dragon's Dogma, however, fails at that, and this has had many players consider the story to be very bad, and in fact, the storytelling is what's bad here. There aren't many intriguing locations in the game, and most locations, if it does feature, feel half-baked, but you can't help notice some of the sort of emptiness. Environmental storytelling is a lackluster in this game, and there are only two quests that involve locations you can discover in Granis. Now, I don't want to keep reading that part of the article because it's just kind of harping on what Dragon's Dogma, it's just harping on Dragon's Dogma, its shortcomings in the first game. So I want to get into the actual meat and potatoes of the article about how Dragon's Dogma 2 can improve the original story. This is, first of all, the story. First of all, Dragon's Dogma 2 must focus on consistent storytelling and lore that will keep players engaged. It needs cutscenes, quests, dialogue, and environmental storytelling elements that are directly related to the lore of the story. And if there's a journal or something similar that will have a detailed summary of the story and optional quests and activities which are related to the story. It'd be a good way to keep players aware of their progression. Dragon's Dogma 2 does not need to try to become like another popular game like an Elden Ring or a Witcher. Instead, it should stay true to its own unique way of storytelling and lore. And if it doesn't stray far from the authentic philosophical and complex world building and story, Dragon's Dogma may be a franchise that is well known for its uniqueness. Second is the game world. We cannot say if Dragon's Dogma 2 will be set in Granis or in any other location, but either way, the map in the game probably will be bigger than most of the first game. But if the map of Dragon's Dogma 2 is as bland as the first game, the size won't matter. While the first game's map certainly had its share of goodness, it needed more content. For example, hidden locations that tell different stories or uncover information about the lore would have been great. Or if there were treasure hunts or similar quests throughout the map that would unlock as you explore the map, would have been welcome. Basically, it'd be great if the map is big and packed with things to do and things to find. No matter how huge, beautiful, or interesting the game world is, players will need to fast travel every once in a while. The fast travel system of the first game was very tedious because you needed to place port crystals in the areas you'd want to travel to later, and you could only place 10 port crystals at a time, which was inconvenient. If the developers allowed fast travel to discover more locations while keeping port crystals as an item that would serve as a custom fast travel destinations, it'd be great. Third part is the quests. While the first Dragon's Dogma certainly had its share of impressive quests, it was not enough to immerse the player in the world for a long time. If the scale and consistency of side quests were improved in the second game, allowing for multiple choices and conclusions, it encouraged the players to try out various choices, prompting replay value. The first game allowed the players to uncover more information about the story by completing side quests. This needed to be further emphasized in Dragon's Dogma 2. Side quests were much more important if they served towards the unlocking of new endings or new quests. It'd make the game immensely more fun. Now, the second part of the article, it says things the developers could add to Dragon's Dogma 2 to make it an even better game. First one is a mount. If the map is huge and there are a lot of tools to explore, which definitely needs to be in the game, a mount will serve great. If there's a separate customization, progression system for the mount, like in Red Dead Redemption 2, it'd serve toward an even greater gameplay experience. New weapons and tools. In the first game, there were an impressive array of swords, hammers, daggers, bows, and stabs. If Dragon's Dogma 2 included even more weapons like spears, axes, halberds, crossbows, and more, the gameplay variety and the build variety would be much greater. I've heard some people say this one actually in a few games now, but they said an overhauled romance system. Everyone loves romance systems in games, right? Dragon's Dogma romance system wasn't bad, but it could have been better. If there were more cutscenes and scenarios which would deepen the relationships between the characters in Dragon's Dogma 2, it'd be welcome. And then the next part, it says factions to join. Many RPGs feature various factions which the player can join. The first Dragon's Dogma featured nothing of the sort. We had a few factions to join in Dragon's Dogma 2, for example, gangs or schools, to make the gameplay even more deep and fun. I definitely agree with that one, because I remember in Skyrim there was like 3 or 4 factions, like you joined the Stormcloaks or the Imperials, or there was that one in Whiterun, I can't remember, the one that you turn into a werewolf at. And I mean, I remember running through all of them, and it added extra story content that I felt like you kind of felt more involved in that fake world's community. Kind of a funny way of putting it. And the last part is just an even better character creation / customization system. Dragon's Dogma has one of the greatest character creators in gaming history. Even the settings that seemed unimportant served greatly in the gameplay. This is one of the few occasions where a game's character creation directly impacted the gameplay. It goes without saying that Dragon's Dogma 2 needs to retain the system. In the sequel, there needs to be more customization options that will include hair, beard, tattoos, and the like. And that's where the article ends there. Actually, that did serve some greater purpose. I definitely agree with a lot of those things in the game. Like, again, like I said, the factions thing is really cool. Because when you think of a game world and, like, different factions and areas, like, it creates, like, this community sense for your character in the game. And when you really get into it and you really want to explore that world, getting involved in different factions and going on their different quests. Like I said, like in Skyrim, there was, like 15 different factions you can join, and there wasn't like there were some rules. Like I remember when the Vampire DLC came out, if you were had the werewolf changing ability, you had to leave that behind. But other than that, I felt like factions is a really cool thing to join. I definitely agree with the world building. I remember playing through this game, and it did feel very like it had everything there to be great, but it just missing something, like again, like feeling very immersed in it. I felt like that was something that I could have used more of in the first game, as well as, again, the weapons, having an abundance of different weapon options is just always cool, and it lets you tackle different build varieties without having to create new characters. So I mean, all these things sound pretty great. I cannot wait to see what Capcom announces in 2023. Hopefully we can get this game at the end of the year, because again, like I said, 2023 to me for action RPGs has been pretty bland, so I have a hard time finding them. But let me know what you guys are excited for down below. Let me know what you're looking for out of Dragon's Dogma 2 and what you hope to see. If you guys did enjoy the video, please be sure to smash the thumbs up button. Consider subscribing if you want to stay up to date on all the latest gaming news we cover, as well as just click that notification bell so you guys never miss an upload. As always, my name is Ross, and I'll see you guys in the next video.